So, after this you do some market research. Define your market. What's the need? How big is this market? Is it growing, shrinking? For example, what's the market for customized houses? Is it big enough? Maybe, maybe not. Is it growing? Is it shrinking, etc.? What is the competition around you? Well, there are many architecture design firms in Singapore, or maybe in other parts of Asia. So a strong competition. How do you measure it? How do you measure the quality of the competition? How do you measure the market itself? How will you eventually measure your penetration in the market? And here, let me just give you a very good hint. Most of the time, I didn't tell you this, but I met with about 800 startups in my last 4 years at Amazon. And we usually talk about technical stuff, but we also talk about business models and other things that are related to their idea. So I have a very good grasp of what's the common mistakes that most startups do when they approach a business. One of the biggest mistakes is here, when they define the market that they're addressing. They usually define a big market, and they say, if we can only get 0.1% of that market, we will be a $300 million company. It doesn't work like that. Even 0.1% is not easy to get if the market is $50 billion. You have to be very realistic of what the market size is and what is the percentage that you can realistically get into that market. For example, if you say the market for houses is $50 billion, I'm just inventing a number here. And then I will correct you, wait a minute, that's the cost to build an entire house, but the design part is only maybe 3% or 5% of that cost. So it's not $50 billion, it's now $2 billion. And wait a minute, out of these $2 billion, 80% always goes to these 3 big firms that win government contracts. Everything else is for these small firms. So it's not $2 billion, it's actually now $300 million. So all of a sudden you have a much better grasp of the real market size. This is super important because after this, you might say, I love my idea, the feedback of my people was very good, but this idea is not exactly a good business. It will never be. Or maybe it will be. And then try to do some social research or opinion research. Try to get a grasp of what people think of the existing products in the market. Ask other people, did you like your experience with the other architects? If not, what was wrong? So try to see if the problem you're trying to solve is a real problem. Ask me, do you really get bored during the weekend and you don't have time to find a good way to get out? And I would say, no, I'm fine on weekends. I love going to Sentosa on weekends. And then you say, okay, maybe that's not a problem for you. And maybe it's not a problem for many other people. So maybe there's not a problem to solve. Okay? Very important. And then the business model, how to make money. How will you get the money? Will you charge by the hour? Will you charge a one amount fee at the beginning? Will you charge after 1 year? Will you, I don't know, get paid with advertising? You have to define your business model. How you create value, how you deliver value, how you capture value. Very important, you have to define also if your business is going to be a CAPEX or an OPEX expenditure for your customers. For example, Amazon Web Services, you pay as you go. You don't invest upfront. If you need a server, you launch the server, and then you pay by the hour. And you are charged at the end of the month. That's a business model for something. And there's also this link here, businessmodelgeneration.com, which is a very super useful link for you if you need to create a business model for your idea. Then it's time to start a startup. During the startup weekend, you will not do this. So it will be, of course, simulated. You will just put a team together, 3, 4, 5, 6 people, and you will just assume that you signed something that says we are a company now, and you've been hired, etc., etc. But my suggestion is, in any team, always have at least 2 co-founders, even if it's just fictional during the startup weekend, and the other people act as people that you hired. Because if you have 2 co-founders, these 2 people should show leadership. If they don't have leadership, eventually, during the startup weekend, you can have someone else say, hey guys, I don't like the way you're leading this company, I would like to try. And since this is a game, if someone tells you, you're not good at leading this company, let me try, you should tell that person, okay, I will let you try for a few hours and see how it goes and see if the people like it. Don't be offended by this. This is a game, everybody should play, and everybody should learn about it, okay? It's very important. But in real life, you have to set up some legal documents. You have to make sure that you set up a company. If you think you will have some intellectual property, patents and things like this, you have to figure out how to do this, how to hire people, what type of co-founders you need. Maybe you are a business guy, you usually want a technical guy on the side and vice versa. And when you fire people, how you fire people, what are the criteria, etc. And then it's time to build whatever you want to sell. So it's time to do product development. And here, you can find a lot of material on the internet about the lean startup methodology. The idea is to create a minimum viable product, something like that notebook that I used before. And then once you build a minimum viable product, you launch it. Essentially, you sell it or you offer it for free to a few selected customers. And then you just iterate very quickly. For example, there was, can I borrow it again for a second? This was my first version, my minimum viable product, my MVP. And I show it to him. And I forgot to ask him, what do you think of this test?
It's
horrible.
Yeah.
What would you do to make it better?
Not give me $1.
Okay, that's a problem. But let's say, imagine that you have to pay $1 anyway. What would it make it, let's say, good enough to pay $1 for it?
Ask more questions.
Ask more questions. Very good. So the second version will be, let me ask a few more questions. So let me work on the product a little bit more, and then release it again to someone else. For example, do you have $1? No, of course, no, you don't have to pay. Then you have someone else take the test and ask that person, did you like the test? And that person will say, well, maybe I would have paid 50 cents, not $1, but 50 cents would have been okay. So you're improving, right? And every time you do this loop, you always have to ask yourself, am I doing the right thing, or should I just pivot and change to something else? And maybe someone along the way will tell you, you know what, there's no point in having these tests. Why don't you give me, for example, professional services instead? Because I might need to run something on cloud. I don't know how to do it. I don't care about these tests. But maybe I want someone that I will pay, but I want to make sure this someone knows enough about what he's doing. So that's a different idea. It's still around cloud computing in this case, but it's a different service. So should I pivot and move to something else, or should I stick to my original plan? And your decision making should be data-based and data-driven. It shouldn't be just guts. Oh, today I feel I change idea. Today I will just move to Australia and just collect tomatoes, and that will be my business. It should be data-based. And it's very important that you do A/B testing. What is A/B testing? Raise your hand if you know what is A/B testing. Only a few people. So, very briefly. If I have that test, and I want to see if a new version is better or worse, I will use the old version and the new version. I will give the old version to half of you, the new version to the other half, collect feedback, and if the feedback tells me the new version is better, I will keep it. If the feedback tells me that the old version is better, I will just trash the new version and build a new one. That's A/B testing. You test 2 different versions of a product on 2 different groups of people, collect feedback, and decide which one of these 2 versions is better. And this is how you do it. You keep developing and iterating new products and new things over and over again. So the idea was to have this system to ask questions about cloud computing and evaluate people. You build the product, the notebook. You release it, I gave it to him, I evaluate it, and he tells me I need more questions, so I decide to iterate. So I build more questions, and then I release it to someone else, blah, 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 and then someone says, maybe we need professional services. Okay, you know what? Pivot. Let me move to something else. And then some of it can be outsourced. For example, these pictures here are from iStock Photo. I paid for it. Some of them are license free. So I decided to outsource these pictures. I didn't have to go out, take beautiful pictures, put them in black and white, and put them here for the presentation. It would have taken months, okay? Instead, I just outsourced this part. The same concept applies to your business. Some of it would probably need to be outsourced. Which part? You have to decide, and you have to be data-driven again. What's the value that you're creating? If you're creating your quits for your cloud experience, cloud expertise, maybe that part can be partially outsourced. Maybe. Maybe you want to hire people just to create tests. That will make probably more accurate tests, etc. This is very important. And the question you should ask yourself is, who can help you create more value? If I outsource the pictures instead of taking pictures by myself, am I creating more value? Yes, because these pictures are beautiful. Mine would have been ugly, so I'm creating more value by outsourcing it. That's when it makes sense. And then, of course, you have to think about partners and the ecosystem. For example, James Moore, you can just search for it on the internet. Search for James Moore and the ecosystem and how he defines an ecosystem. But essentially, in this case, my idea could be, let me go to NUS. Now I have a friend at NUS, so I can just ask him to introduce to some people there and tell them, hey guys, I'm building this system that assess cloud skills. Why don't we partner and you send this test to all your computer science students, and in exchange for this, maybe you give me some money, or maybe we partner or something, etc. This is, of course, a crucial part, because that's what helps you scale very quickly. And usually, you do this because you want to acquire customers, and by doing this, I can acquire the entire NUS Computer Science department in just one snap, instead of going to them one by one. This is the main reason why you do this. Or maybe because these guys here, they have such a big outreach that you can't really afford to have the same outreach with your money.